Hi everyone, welcome back to my wonderful channel. And today I have a very inspiring discovery. It was something I was doing yesterday. Today happens to be a full moon in Aries. It's a pedigree moon, and so that means that it's actually very close to the Earth. And the sun actually rose this morning, and as at the same time as that full moon in Aries and Libra in tropical astrology. But anyways, maybe that is the reason for having this wonderful revelation. My revelation came about the way that eclipses actually do have a way of making big changes into our life. Sometimes we know what they are. Sometimes they come like, you know, almost 6 months ahead of time. Sometimes they come 10 days before, and sometimes they come right after. And in this case, we're talking about Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is a politician who is a House Speaker for the Republican Party. He is part of a key part, I believe, of the election and the success of Donald Trump and of this election in general. And he's someone that I believe that no one's really paying so much attention to, but I think that they are catching on that, this man is important. And so I found it in the chart. It was something I really just had a hunch about. I went digging for it, and I just found a wealth of great things. If you find this video to be interesting, I have been studying astrology since 2007. This is one of the first times in my life I'm able to really just see it happen right before my eyes, going back to an eclipse that actually began in October 14th of 2023. There was a 21-degree eclipse that happened around the same time as Kevin McCarthy was actually being challenged for his position as House Speaker. And then just overnight with two other persons. One other person happens to be Jim Jordan. He was also another person that really wanted to have that, but it didn't go to him. It went to someone else. And we're going to tell you and unfold that story. Thank you for joining me. It's going to be a great story. Please like, please subscribe, please leave a comment of what you think if this is a great discovery. And also just know that there are mysteries in your life that sometimes that these wonderful charts would actually just be able to reveal to you. You could go through your entire life not knowing any of these charts, but it's so much so to sometimes see the correlation that where you are, what you're about to do, what's about to happen in your life. Anyways, see you on the other side. This birth chart is stated for October 14th of 2023, which is the year of that eclipse. However, he's freshly coming off of a Pluto trine, and you can see that he's already had this power coming to him.
Speaker of the House. Republicans settled on the little-known congressman after huddling behind closed doors late into the night. They celebrated with a raucous press conference that saw one lawmaker angrily turning on a reporter. What prompted the outburst? It was this question from ABC congressional correspondent Rachel Scott.
Do you believe the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results reached
Next question. Scott's follow-up question about support for Ukraine.
Despite the big surprise of this question, Pluto at 27 degrees of Capricorn was conjuncting Jupiter at 27 degrees in Mr. Johnson's chart. That loud question was about the mission and his newly found space that Pluto has now positioned him to be for the next 12 years. On October 14th, 2024, Trump tells everyone to vote on January 5th, but the only person that would be in threat of a vote on that day would be himself and Mike Johnson. An eerie thing that also happened on the 14th there was the fact that it was the first day that there was a deadlock between Kamala Harris and and Donald Trump. And to this moment, there's still a deadlock in that moment.
The incoming Congress is scheduled to start on January 3rd, but following a bruising pre-Christmas battle to keep the government open, Republican lawmakers, including President-elect Trump, have turned on Speaker Mike Johnson. Without a speaker, the House of Representatives could become paralyzed and unable to certify Trump's re-election victory, plunging the Capitol and the country into political chaos. After that, nobody knows what would happen. So, how could things play out? According to the Constitution, each new session of Congress begins at noon on January 3rd. In the House of Representatives, the first order of business is for the representatives-elect to choose the new speaker, who then swears in the newly elected representatives. For about 100 years, this step was just a formality, but experts have worried for months that Republicans are so divided they might not choose a speaker in time to count and certify the presidential election results, which by law must happen on January 6th during a joint session of the House and the Senate.
Mike has the sun at 9 degrees of Aquarius, the North Node with that little horseshoe there at 5 degrees, which is his true destiny, and Mercury, which is 27 degrees of Capricorn, also in the same place of authority, also in a top spot to become speaker.
A lawyer and staunch Trump supporter.
I just want to congratulate Mike Johnson.
At his civil trial today, Trump took credit for Johnson's victory.
This time yesterday, nobody was thinking of Mike. And then we put out the word, and now he's the Speaker of the House.
Eclipses have been feared by kings or people of power, and for knowing the intuitiveness forever in many ancient places. But this situation doesn't fit someone who's going to die because they just came into the power. We see here he might be a substitute king. And we see Mars, a square Mars, at the very time. He might just be under a lot of pressure, doing a lot of things, realizing that this thing is about to come just because Pluto at 29 degrees will soon be 0 degrees of Aquarius. And this is what people think about him at the very moment.
That he and members of his party will only certify the results of this coming election if they think it's fair, which is, we can leave wide open to interpretation as to what that means. Talk to us about the pressures he's going to be under if Donald Trump loses. Do you think he would certify a Kamala Harris victory?
Yeah, this is the scenario where Donald Trump loses and the House is still held by Republicans, and Mike Johnson is trying to remain Speaker. And I think we need to look back at what happened to Kevin McCarthy, who it took him several days and several rounds of voting to get the necessary votes to be Speaker. I'd like people to imagine the scenario where Mike Johnson now has to ask those same people what they would like to, what they need from him to vote for him for Speaker. The Speaker vote happens on January 3rd. You certify the election on January 6th. It's not hard to imagine that Mike Johnson is going to tell a lot of those hardline conservatives, I'm not going to bring up a certification vote. I'm not going to allow that to happen if Donald Trump is protesting the outcome of the election. We may not have a Speaker of the House by January 6th. It's very likely that if Republicans maintain the House in that scenario, it's a very small majority. They have 2 or 3 seats. If you have 4 or 5 Republicans who say, I'm not going to vote for Mike Johnson, I'm not going to vote for anybody who says they're going to certify the election, we could end up in, I hate to use this term, a constitutional crisis where there is nobody overseeing the House at a time when we need to certify the results of the election.
I agree.
As we fast forward into January 6, 2025, and Mike Johnson's chart, he has a Sun trine Venus, and people love exactly what he's doing.
Of the young conqueror from the West. The inaugural address was not a disappointment to those who had come to hear it. It was like the man who delivered it, bold, outspoken, unmistakable in its terms, promising much, impatient of precedent, reckless of result, a double confirmation that this was to be the reign of the common people. That much should be unmade and much made over, and no matter how the rich man might cry out in anger or amazement, the nation must march on to the fulfillment of a higher and nobler mission than the impoverishment and degradation of the millions for the enrichment and elevation of the few.
in conclusion of this wonderful discovery, it is so hard to say exactly what Pluto really has in store for this person's wonderful destiny, as Pluto in 2025 would come across Mr. Johnson's destiny. And so it'll then, in the years after, go through the incubation period of what Pluto does when it actually comes in contact with someone's sun. And we go through the caterpillar process of becoming a butterfly. And so he has this thing that starts over. What also could really happen is that as 2025 actually do happen and it rolls out for him, the knowledge that he gets about what his destiny would be would actually just become the transforming agent of what would actually occur just in the years to come, which means that somewhere in the political cycle, which is the highest office, would actually be president. If not, it will definitely not be obviously the coming cycle, because he must go through these transitions. There's no way someone could be a ruler under a Pluto transit that way. Reason for that is because the person is going through so much psychological changes that affects them at such a core level that their judgment of other people in those times really probably wouldn't be the best. And you can see universe knows this, and the way that these cycles are set up, that when the next election cycle actually does occur where he becomes a candidate again, he is definitely able to take this on and actually just be that ruler. And as an Aquarius person, by the time that he really would actually want to be a part of that, we would have Neptune now in Aries. We would have Uranus firmly into Gemini, and these agents would now finally tell us that we have crossed over. We are fully into the year and the age of Aquarius. For a many and a long time, I could never really understand what that is, but now that we've come closer to those points and you see Pluto is in Aquarius, that Saturn had just left Aquarius and obviously is in the last sign. Saturn would actually at that point in time also be in Aries, so Uranus and Saturn will be together at the time of this. So this is all crescendoing into such a big moment, which I believe that Mike Johnson is definitely going to be part of that whole movement. Thank you so much.